Okay, Mike, I am recording a very short video for you. I'm using a little bit of a soft voice because my daughter is sleeping here next to me. I got some rest today, but I wanted to show you the two-step process shown to me by Dan Rome himself as to how he solves any problem, including but not limited to planning out all of the presentations that he does and the 4 books that he has written. And if this is of interest to you, then let's go. It is my hope that this would cut down the amount of planning time you are working on by as much as 90%. And it's simply using the different pathways in the brain in order to give yourself the best picture of what you're trying to get to, and using Kanban to find out what might be missing. So it's very simple. It's a 2-step process. Step 1 is to take your talk track and look at it through this 6x6 secret decoder ring, which I'll show you a little bit in a second. And the second one is, once you have a visual vocabulary, to simply choose the way that you want the audience to be changed and choose the appropriate story form in order to make that change happen. So if we look at the talk track, this talk track could be made up of text messages, it could be made up of phone calls, you could have paper notes that you've taken on things from conversations that you've had. But eventually you're going to have some talk track, some master list of things that you do. And if you take that talk track and divide it into the 6 who, what, when, where, how areas, that's nothing new really. But what was new to me was to see that you actually have specific pictures that correlate directly to each of these contexts for the talk track. So in the who and what, we draw objects. In the how much, we draw charts, bar charts, pie graphs, etc. In the areas or questions of where, we either plot a map or we have a geography. And that could be global or local. When we're dealing with when, we deal with timelines. When we deal with how, the easiest way to show this is a progression or flow chart. And when we're dealing with why, Dan suggests that we draw the multivariable plot, which will give us not only the x's and the y's, but size, shape, and position in time and space, representing some outcome that we're trying to get to. So once we've taken our talk track, and I just draw a little hand here, like we're holding this talk track, we're holding this secret decoder ring up and looking at the talk track through this series of lenses. Once we get the drawings of the charts and the objects and the maps and the timelines and the flow charts out, then we take it and we put it into sequence to find out how we want our audience to change. If we want our audience's ability to change, if we want them to get better, then we explain to them how to do this, kind of like what I'm doing with you here. I'm just showing, okay, first we do this, and then we do this, and then we do this, and over time, your ability has changed because each of these steps have made you better. Or in the case of information where you're just giving a report, that's more like a football game. Folks, great to have you here and ready to get started. Here's the coin toss. Okay, we're starting off on the 20-yard line, and he goes for a run down the middle. And first down is reached, and a pass play into the end zone, touchdown. That would be an example of a report. In the case of drama, you have everything's great until one day something bad happens, and then it gets even worse. And just when we think we're at the bottom, we're not really, because he hits rock bottom. But then inspiration comes, character is redefined, and he battles his tiger, and there's some lesson learned. Right? Standard drama. And then with the pitch, it's all about the problem. we have some starting point here, and we run into a problem, and we have a glimpse of the vision of the problem on the other side. Here's how the other guys solve the problem. Here's how we solve the problem. And then at the end, there's some hook there. You know, if you act today, you get 3 free details, Mr. Jones. So here we have, in the broad perspective, how to take any semblance of information, push it through the secret decoder ring, use Kanban to say, okay, I've answered the where, I've answered the when question, I've answered the how, but we're still not sure about why, or we don't know all the who's and the what's. Maybe we have some of the who's and what's, but there's still a hole there, and we don't know how much. And in this perspective, you can see the talk track moved into pictures, the pictures moved into a storyline, and this is how Dan Rome, and then I've learned from Dan how I do all of my planning for the visual whiteboarding and storytelling. Hope that helps and cuts a lot of time off your planning session if you can make it useful. Talk soon, brother.